you. So when I go to the tourism development website, and Nick, you might be able to pull this up for the audience, which I did do. I think it's kind of neat. There's a map of artificial reef sites and how many sites are available to the divers within 5 miles. Can you answer that question? How many sites are available within 5 miles?
5 miles? I'd say probably a third or so are within 5 miles of Okaloosa County.
10 miles?
10 miles, probably about half.
So how many boats can get to 20 miles out?
It all depends on the weather.
The pontoon boat,
Yep.
one of your boats, would you take it 20 miles out?
I would never recommend a pontoon boat going into the Gulf of Mexico. Not 1 mile, not 20 miles.
So the next question I have is, in order to be a diver, because there's various gases involved, you have to be licensed and certified to do this, right?
You have to be trained, that's correct.
So we've heard from 3 dive shops today, but they're saying that this would bring a lot of tourists here that would be certified in these areas, right?
Very much so, yes.
Has anyone done an analysis of what it would take us to get $10 million back? How long it will take us to recoup that amount of money?
Yeah.
So one of the last slides that I had was looking at other
Thank you
large...
for pulling that up. That's the slide where you can go and actually, it's interactive and you can see, whoops, it just went off. You can see the different sites and what's out there. Go ahead.
So one of the last slides that I presented showed some of the economic analysis done for some of the other large vessels and other destinations, and we're anticipating about $3 million per year just in dive economic benefit. Okay. That doesn't include fishing, that doesn't include anyone coming for the museum.
But that's a return to our investment for the
per year. That's correct. So theoretically, 3 to 4 years is when we'd see that return on that $10.1 million total budget, but our contribution to Okaloosa County is likely to be less than half of that.
What I'm trying to do here is establish a record. You have to understand, as a commissioner, we get a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So could this $10 million be used to build roads or public safety?
No. The short answer is we have a percentage that we are allowed to by law could be used for public safety. To build roads or certain other infrastructure, there's certain criteria in state law that you can use. The Destin Connector is an example of that, where there has to be a big study, can be used up to 70%. It has to be there has to be a definite nexus to tourism and relationship in state law. But at a broader scale, you can't just go out and pave a bunch of roads with that. Nor can you build homeless camps. Nor can you solve other problems that we face in the general fund. This has to be used for the promotion of tourism. And when I talk about economics, the other thing I'll refer you guys to just briefly is in your emails this morning, we have a letter of support from the DEMA, and in there is the Haas study. It's the actual study that's done here in Northwest Florida for the Riscony, and they've converted it there, and that will give you a lot of economic data, and that's made part of the record, and that will show you $3 million a year. And as I've tried to tell people we've been talking to about this project, that it doesn't make us $3 million a year. It makes your small business people $3 million a year. It makes your recreational people more enjoyable to live here. I have a 20-foot boat. I go out 20 miles. I go out 30 miles, and I chase fish. So I don't dive. So I chase fish, and I'll chase fish on every boat we've got out there. So
Alex, you know I've been very supportive of everything you've done. If a tourist comes here who does not have a license, can they learn quickly and be able to go out there and dive?
Absolutely. There's all the dive shops that spoke today are able to certify divers all the way.
Within what, like a week?
Within a week, yes, ma'am. And there's 4 days? 4 days. And they can do most of the classwork online before they come to the destination and do their checkout dives here in the destination.
Okay.
they can all go fish for sure.
And they can go fishing.
No certification required. You gotta have a license or license. Yeah.
And have you all taken a look, and this might be more of a Jennifer question, that $10 million that, it's hard right now. Let me just say, there's a lot of people hurting. When you go to the supermarket and you try to buy a pound and a half of meat and it's $35, or when you look at the people that are hurting because of these hurricanes, for us to take $10 million and sink it into the Gulf of Mexico, that's a hard sell. I don't know if everybody feels that way or anybody, certainly not in this room. We've got a lot of people that are in the industry, but I sure have heard from a lot of citizens. So let's just say we took that $10 million and built a sporting complex, much like the Brown Sporting Complex in Panama City. Up here in the north, we'd have baseball, softball fields, swimming pools. We could have a lot of competitive people coming in and out. That would bring a tremendous economic benefit to this area.
But
I'm
that's
just saying, that's just one thought. Wait, let me finish.
Yes.
Okay? And I mean, this is something that I feel passionately about. It's hard for me to wrap my head around spending $10 million to drop a big boat into the Gulf of Mexico. I'm not a diver, but I do appreciate people who want to dive and see how pretty it is. But we've got a lot of issues here in Okaloosa County. $10 million is a lot of money. And I just want to know, have we done an actual analysis that shows the impact of that? I mean, this is common sense, I guess. I'm too much common sense here. I just can't get my head around dropping a boat in. So even though this seems like a really sexy idea and we've got national news everywhere, as I look at this country right now and how the economy is going, for all of us women who go to the grocery store and shop, and I'm sure there's some men who do too, for all of those who are trying to pay the insurance costs in our homes, to put roofs on our home, to see all the destruction that we've just seen in this part of North America, how do we justify spending $10 million to drop a historic boat in the Gulf of Mexico?
So you talked about the Panama City complex. That's a $60 million facility, and that would be less than 2 hours away. That'd be a risk. All in, I think, even though we talk about $10.1 million, we can only spend it for promotion of tourism. We can't fix people's electric bills. We can't fix inflation.
That's true.
We aren't, masters of the universe. But people will question that about anything we spend, whether we buy property up in Baker, whether we spend $1.5 million on statues and trails, whether we spend other kind of things. People could say that. Why would you do any of those things? Because we could be buying groceries or doing other stuff. At the end of the day, we can only spend those money on the promotion of tourism, and there's lots of good things we can spend money on and make our community better. And I think the statues make it better. I think the area we just bought up there in Baker makes it better. I think this will make it better. At the end of the day, you're multiplying your dollars. You're taking your tourism dollars that could only be spent for promotion of tourism.
I haven't seen it in writing yet.
Well,
I've heard things, but I haven't seen an analysis come to me that says this is how much we're going to get back.
Well, the analysis, I think you're going to see us bringing forth as far as, I'm just talking about the basic multiplication of your grant dollars. So I think at the end of the day, we're going to probably be spending about $2 million of our local dollars. I think you're going to see us come to the table with about $8 billion of outside dollars. So we're multiplying those dollars. And the Haas study is in your.
It sounds like very few tourists are going to be able to come here. It sounds like very few locals are going to be able to get to this dive site. Not that the ones that aren't going to go there aren't going to enjoy it. But let me just say that for my buck, buying more beach access where we knock down condominiums and buy more property where people can actually, tourists can go out to the beach, would be a better bang for the buck for $10 million. Now, Alex, I've been supportive of all your stuff, but I'm just telling you, this is very hard for me, who represent the people of Okaloosa County, to get behind and say, what a great idea, when so many people are struggling right now in the economy. And they don't understand that there's two different buckets of money. There isn't that understanding, I'm sorry.
Yeah, hopefully we explain that today.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If Commissioner Ketchell's finished. They may not, and I think many of them actually do. Our citizens are pretty smart folks, but we do, Commissioner. It's our job to understand the distinctions between those buckets, and so we have to be really careful about hyperbole that kind of goes along with aiding in a lack of understanding of the distinction between those two buckets of money. And so we all get it up here. We know what the limitations are on these dollars. And certainly I think there are legitimate arguments to be made about where best to spend those dollars. I think the reality is that this commission's done a really good job of trying to cover all our bases. And I think you see that with projects in North Okaloosa County now. You see it with significant water access projects going on recently in Commissioner Goodwin's district, certainly in Commissioner Ponder's district. I think we are showing attention to bike paths, which, let's be honest, are pretty niche. If we want to really drill down and say who's going to use that,
Everybody uses bike paths. Come on, Commissioner.
No, ma'am. I will respectfully suggest to you that everyone does not use bike paths, no more so than everyone goes scuba diving. But there are plenty of people who do and that will be benefited from it. Not everyone has an interest in going to see a very specific war memorial dedicated to female veterans, but some do. And certainly I can recall asking for the specific numbers that would show the ROI on that project, and I recall that was never able to be produced. What I can say is the ROI data is actually there for these types of facilities, has been provided to us, and I think the return is sufficient. Will I spend all of our tourism dollars on these types of projects? No. But do I think it is a program that has shown itself to be exceptionally successful, is good for not just your scuba divers, but remember that entire charter fish industry, which is built around access to these types of facilities, will also benefit from this type of project, as will many, many, many of your locals who go out and take significant advantage of snapper season and all the other Gulf fishing opportunities that are out there. And so I just want us to be careful. I'm gone in 45 days-ish or less, but really be careful, commissioners, on the hyperbole side of things, where it's not ultimately productive, I think, to a really sound decision. And it's our job to understand those distinctions and then articulate that to our constituents. Let's vote on this.
Chairman, may I say
Chairman.
one more thing?
Yes.
In response. So I may sound like I was hyperbolizing, but let me just say that if you've been reading Facebook comments, if you've been watching any of the social media about this, there's been a lot of concerns and questions about this. And so I wanted to speak to that. It's one of the reasons I asked if we could spend it on public roads, if we could spend it on public safety, because there's not that understanding, and I wanted people to understand that. So it's not that I think this is a terrible project. I feel bad about the historic significance as a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I love history. I feel bad about sinking this. But the main reason is the cost of it. The cost worries me, and I'm not sure we're going to get our return on the investment.